So good. This is what we've been able to achieve. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you guys already know, this is the second and final piece for this bridal dress tutorial. So I'm going to show you guys how we finish this up. So guys, if you don't know, like if you don't already know who this is the semi-clan here, and if you're new, welcome. Continuing from where we stopped, we have our S-Day ironed on our upper bodice, cut out, which is our satin piece. So we ironed the S-Day on the wrong side. The link to the first part of this tutorial is going to be in the description box. I just want to tip that in. Right now we're going to be cutting our lining, and our lining has an inbuilt corset, so I'm just basically cutting this pattern out, which is a corset pattern we drafted on the bodice. So note guys, this corset piece pattern you're seeing here is just basically for the lining, so we are only going to cut out a piece for the lining because we already cut out a different pattern piece for the main body of the dress. So I have my lining fabric and I'm just basically going to be folding that, and we're going to be cutting on fold. For the back panel piece, I noticed I didn't label, the back panel piece. So I went ahead with my marker and I'm just going to label those pieces down so I don't get confused. You guys already know. I cut on 1 inch for the side. So for our side, we're going to be having 1 inch. Over there, I did the measurement of our boning plus 0.3 cm. So let's say my the measurement of my boning is 1 cm. I'm going to add 0.3 cm to that measurement, and for places where you're not going to be adding boning to, is going to be half of an inch, just like that curvy place. I'm not going to be adding boning to that curve, so I'm just basically going to do either half of an inch or you add 1 cm. So for this piece, I'm going to be adding, the width of my boning plus 0.3 cm, and for the top over there, I added 1 cm allowance, and also for the bottom. So for this part of this cup, I added 1 cm all round, and I'm just basically going to cut that out. cutting all of this and adding all the necessary sewing allowance, we should have your piece looking like this. So I went over to just basically just pin everything down. I also ironed ST on our lining, and you guys remember we added ST also on the body of the dress. Moving over to a sewing machine, we're basically going to be sewing our pieces together, which is our bodice pieces. We're going to be joining our corset, and we're also going to be joining the main bodies of the dress. Once we're done sewing, she has something that looks like this. Over there we sewed on our boning case, and we're also going to give that a good press. Moving forward, we're going to be cutting the lining to this piece, and this applies for both your front and back piece. If you've watched this video up until this point and you know you're subscribed, I mean, it only means one thing. Are you hating? Are you hating or something? Well, anyways, just kidding. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share with your loved ones or someone you think I'll need this video. Oh, these are the beads that I cut out from the fabric. Finally, the horsehair braid arrived, and the width of this horsehair braid is 3 inches. So next up, we're going to be cutting the beads from the side of lace. So with the help of our scissors, I'm just basically going to be cutting just a little, and where I'm cutting off is for the side is 1 inch. So we're going to be clearing all the beads on that 1 inch, and mind you, this scissors is doing absolutely no harm to the lace was still perfectly intact. So 1 inch for the side and half of an inch for the bottom and for the top. Guys, this thing took almost forever to do. Like, I had to get comfortable a bit just so I could do more. My backs were aching. But anyways, we're still going to be reusing these beads that we're cutting out from the side, and we're going to be doing this for both the front and back fabric we cut out, and that's all the beads.
Hi guys, so first of all, the sewed the job, so you already know my sister made this brunch, and we like to do this brunch, or what I call this, because it's like breakfast and then lunch at the same time, because I haven't had any breakfast. So come join me. It's actually very tasty. Mom, say something now.
Hi guys.
Back to work, guys. So we're going to be extending our back piece. So center back pieces that we have over 6 pieces, but if it's unfold, we're going to be having 3 pieces. So right now I'm going to take the measurement from the top line over there all the way to the bottom, which is 21 inches. So I'm just going to be extending that. You could do yours like to your taste, but I wanted to have a mini train at the back, not like mini because it came out a little bit exaggerated, but anyways. And I'm just going to be extending that from that tip all the way to the bottom and cutting this out. So like I said, it's unfold, so we already have 2 pieces that way, like the way we cut it out. Then I'm just going to place this on top of the fabric again, just like that, so we could cut out another panel. Moving forward, we're going to be folding our satin again like so, and basically we're going to be cutting the final piece, and this is our center back 3, which is our CB3, and I'm just going to be placing that like so. I'll take the measurement from the tip and to the bottom, which is 21 inches, and I was going to use a ruler, but then I changed my mind, and I'm just going to be blend that from that top over there. I'm going to be blending it all the way to the bottom. This will help us achieve a curve by the side. Done with all of that, going in with our scissors and basically just going to be cutting that out like so. Moving forward to our weaving machine, I basically started off by pinning each of the panels together, which is the upper and the semi-attached one to the bottom, and I just basically pin and then I started weaving. So you're going to repeat this for all the back piece. Went over to the weaving machine. I started up by weaving the attached extra train, and after that I started weaving the sides. Like I've said, don't forget to label your piece so you don't get confused when it's time to join each piece together, so you don't put where maybe number 2 in number 1 and all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to repeat the same step for all the back piece panel. One of the reasons I thought about, extending and having a little bit of extra train at the back is because the length of 9 inches organza we cut out at the beginning of this tutorial, which is the first part of this tutorial, was extremely long. So I had to try to make the length match up with the back piece, so I don't have to keep folding and making little pleats. So that's basically just it. Now we're starting off to pin our organza flounce to our panel piece, leaving 1 inch at the bottom for our hemming allowance for the bottom. So once we're done pinning all of that down, we're going to head over to our sewing machine. And so because this is our CB3, which is center back 3, I am going to be sewing from point to point. That's why you could see the connection from one flounce to the other. So I'm just sewing just like so, like all around. That's basically it, and this basically applies just for the center back. I did this method for just the center back. So note guys, you're going to be repeating for the other back panels, which is CB1 and 2. You're going to be repeating how we did the front. Also, we're just going to pin, leaving 1 inch allowance at the bottom, and then stitch that down. Yes. We have our bra cups already pinned to our dress form, and we're just basically going to be trimming off the excess, leaving, don't forget to leave your 1 inch allowance, sewing allowance, and then basically just going to keep on trimming that till I have a very nice feel. And I repeated the same thing for the other breast cup. I'm going to be using this white net material we got from the bottom of our fabric, and I was going to use the mesh one you could see up there, but I later changed my mind, so I'm using this white one. I folded this into two like so, and we're going to be adding 1/2 inch cutting allowance, which is also going to be our sewing allowance. So taking out all the pins, we're going to proceed to joining this to the upper part of the bodice. So basically we're just going to be pinning that down like so, and we're going to be left with 1/2 inch at the top over there, and that will be our sewing allowance for that bodice. And then we proceed to repeating the same steps on the other side by pinning our two to our satin fabric. So once we're done with all of this, we're going to take this to our sewing machine and sew at 0.5 inches sewing allowance. Repeating the same thing on the other side, we're also going to be sewing on 0.5 inches allowance. Once all of that is done, we should have something that looks like this. And now we're basically going to be joining our lining also. After pinning our corset lining to the dress, we are going to proceed to a sewing machine and we're going to be sewing on that same 0.5 inches we sewed on while joining the nets. And for the top, half of an inch, or you could use 1 cm for the top part of the dress. You're going to be seeing something that looks like black and a bit of touch of white, but that is my stay. I ran out of stay and I had this black and white one, so I added it. It wasn't that obvious, but anyways, I continued the same thing for the other side of our bodies, the upper bodies. All done with that, I'm just basically going to flip that inside out and voila. So proceeding to the lower part of the bodies, I'm going to be joining side by side, the front panel and the back panel, and you really have to be careful with this so you don't put the wrong side to each other. And don't forget, guys, always label your pieces or your fabric also. All done with that, and basically we're moving forward to a sewing machine and we're going to be stitching each of the side at 1 inch. We're going to be stitching the side by 1 inch. So for some reason, I know this fabric kind of look wonky or weird, but anyways, I'm fixing my boning into my lining. And if you notice, I sewed on the allowance we left. I sewed on the width of my boning just to create some kind of boning case. and I'm just fixing that in like so. Right now we're going to be cutting out a long strip. I cut out 1 inch, and we're going to be using this to create loops. So here's my sewing machine to stitch it together. So we have 2 lengths. We have 1.5 and half of an inch, and over there is a tiny one we've already turned over. So we're going to repeat the same step again. On the right hand side, you guys will see that I have already attached the loops and made some little cutouts. So we're going to be repeating the same thing on the left hand side. So I started off with putting the first one and pinning that like so, and we're using 1 inch, so 1 inch apart from the first one, and we're going to do another 1 inch apart for the second, and just continue with this sequence. All done with that, we just start creating our loops. All done with that, I inserted my breast cup into the dress. So guys, you guys will pardon me for the quality of this particular clip, but anyways, I took this to my manual machine and I am going to be stitching both our lining and the main fabric for the upper part of the bodice. So I'm stitching them together. All done with that, I'm going to flip this inside out and take out the pins. So we turn to the other side and we're going to be repeating the same step on this other side. So after stitching all of this, we turn this over and this is what our look looks like. It's already looking so nice. You guys remember the cone-like shape we left at the beginning of this video? So right now we're going to be using this. So I'm measuring from that place all to the bottom at 7 inch, and I'm basically just going to be cutting that and repeating the same step for all this cone like piece we have. So right now we're going to be using this particular piece to fill up the missing places at the bottom of our dress. Proceed to the sewing machine, and basically we're just going to be repeating the same step of sewing our horsehair braid on our organza fabric. So you could sew on 1 cm or half of an inch. And I flip this over and continue sewing, and I'm sewing very close to the horsehair braid. And yes guys, so basically we're just repeating the same step we have been doing. Only difference is this particular organza cutout is shorter than the rest, so we're going to be using this to fill up all the space we have for our lower part of the dress. So now remember we added 3 pieces together then weave. For this particular one, we're going to be adding 2 pieces together then weaving. So we're not adding 3 but 2. Now I start off by filling all of this, so we're going to do this for both the front panels and the back panels. So we're going to be filling each and every piece. So I know you guys will be wondering like where exactly are we filling? We're filling in between, but if you pin every piece together, you're going to see all the missing space that you need to fill. So if you guys notice, like I opened up the 2 pieces of flounce and I'm sewing in between, so I'm having one on one side and one on the other side. So I'm just basically filling up the missing space. All done with that, you're going to be repeating the same step, for all the pieces, both for the front piece and back piece. An easy way for you to do this is pin all the panels together from CF1 all the way to the back, and then you'll be able to see where you have some missing piece or where you have to fill up. Then you just take note and then just fill up with the organza cone like shape we made. When I said no fabric is going to waste, I literally mean this. So I'm going over to flip this like so, and I'm going to be creating another cutout, from this scrap fabric that I have. And this is just to have more organza flounce to fill up the bottom. So guys, if you really don't want to go through the stress of having to manage your fabric and everything, I used 30 yards of organza, and I'm sure from the startup I told you guys 30 yards is kind of small, but you could go as far as using 50 yards and 60 yards, just to make this fuller. So right now we're going to join those two together and we're going to be weaving. So basically it's just more like repeating the same steps. Right now we're going to continue filling all of this up, and note guys, I sewed in between the two flounces. Having something that looks like this, and I'm really loving this outcome. So I proceeded to pinning the top of the dress, just to have a visual of what I have done so far. And this is what it looks like to the right hand side. So right now I am going to be joining like the upper part to the lower parts. So once you're done pinning all of that, we're going over to our sewing machine and we're going to be stitching that down. I ended up putting my bra cup inside and I have that just sewn in place. If you guys notice, we start off pinning the upper bodice to the lower bodice at 0.5 inches away. So the lower bodice is left with 0.5 inches at both sides. Like we have a remainder of 0.5 inches at both sides. This will be the allowance for us to sew our loop and join our lining to the lower bodice. You guys will see what I'm talking about. And now we're going to be connecting, that long piece all the way to the lower bodice. Don't worry, you guys will see what I'm talking about. I already fixed this side with pins, just so you have a visual of what I'm going to do on the other side. So I'm going to be showing you guys. I started off by measuring, all of that and cutting out my tiny piece of 2 inches. I want you guys to pay attention to this part, and this is how we're going to be flipping this like so. And it's basically just a continuation of our loop, and we're still going to be using the measurement of 1 inch away from each loop. And basically I'm just going to continue like the same way we did the upper parts of, this dress. All done with all of this, it's time for us to join our lining to the lower part of the dress. And basically I'm just going to be joining our lining starting from the waistline, and you just place this over, and you could start off by pinning before you start stitching. So I took this after pinning all of this, we took it to our sewing machine, and we're going to be sewing at exactly where we sewed on before, which is our 0.5 inches. All done with all of this, we're going to proceed to stitching our loops side, like where we have the loop and all of those pins. And we're going to be doing this carefully so we don't break our needle, because I still do have pins in there. After stitching all the way to the down, I stitch a little bit to the right hand side. Next up, I'm just going to take out this pin and show you guys what our loop looks like. Repeating the same step on the other side. Our loop is already looking so nice. Now we're going to repeat the same step for the other part of our loop. Once all of that is done, this is what it looks like. And now we're going to be joining these two pieces together at the bottom, and we're going to be stitching that. So I pin that first. So we're sewing at 1 inch. Pick this up, and I continued pinning all the way to the bottom. And remember guys, we're going to be sewing at 1 inch both for the lining and for the main body of the dress, which is where we have our fabric, our lace fabric. Proceeded to the sewing machine, and basically I'm just going to be sewing. After sewing the fabric part of this dress, we're going to flip this over, and we're going to be sewing the lining part of this dress, of that particular place we pinned. This is what it looks like. So we're going to be cutting all of this trimming out, and we're going to be using the soldering iron. You could also use your scissors to do this trimming, but it takes a lot of time, so I'm just using the soldering iron just to ease up time, and it comes out very clean and effortlessly. So anyways, this is how I am basically cutting out my trimming. So I cut out enough that will be able to cover the upper bodice, and we do have some, little flowers that we're still going to use. I already hand stitched the right hand side, and guys, it's looking so stunning. And we're going to be repeating the same step on the plain parts. So right now I am just going to show you guys how I was able to achieve what we have on the right hand side on this left hand side. So all my trimmings, I'm going to be adding my trimmings to this plain parts. And remember the remnant beads we had, I still used it for this project, and I ended up hand beading a lot of places, and it took almost forever, but I love the process. Will I do this again? Absolutely yes. So basically, I am using a very tiny, needle, and this needle is, specifically for beading tiny beads, because this bead is extremely tiny. And if you see on the right hand side, you're going to notice that I have some trimming. I'm just trying that out just to see what it looks like, and I'm going to be adding this trimming. This will be like a tiny strap for the sleeve, not like necessarily sleeve, but don't worry, you guys will see it, or you guys have already seen it obviously. But anyways, I continue the process of stitching all of these using beads. Beading that stuff. I would have showed you guys the time. I think I should be around 3 or thereabout. So this morning I just want to round everything up because I want to finish this dress today. I'm so tired. Let's just finish this thing. I'm literally already so exhausted from this project, honestly. But anyways, I'm loving the outcome. Let me show you guys what the this thing looks like. Because I even have something like, what's this, sequence. So I'm just gonna lay this down. It's time for the big review. Oh my days. So guys, this is what it's looking like. My effort paid out. This trimming we're going to be using for the hand, and as you guys can see, the cutout, we're going to be adding it to the tiny strap that will be the hand. And I really love the outcome. It's looking well detailed. I mean, even this video is not doing justice to how pretty this is. And I'm going to flip this to the other side to show you guys what the back look like, and voila, it looks so stunning. Okay, let me stop hyping myself. Tell me guys what you guys think, in the comment box below. Anyways, you guys could also see that the boning is inside the lining and all of that. So right now we're going to proceed to adding this. The length of this is your loop length plus 2 inches, or you could go 3 inches. Then the width of this is 12 inches, and then you just fold this like so. Head over to my sewing machine just to close stitch that up. Don't forget guys to iron stay on this particular piece just as to give it some form of structure. Yes, so once we're done with all of this, we're going to be stitching this particular piece to the body of the dress. So I ended up notching the tips and turning this over, like turning it inside out. And then you're going to be holding that at 0.5, which is half of an inch inside, and closing up that space. Guess what happened? Yes, NEPA took the lights while I was making this. But anyways, I ended up not being able to use my ring light because I didn't charge. So right now I'm going to be joining this piece that we made, and I'm going to be joining it very close to the loop with the help of my needle and thread. So I'm going to start by checking the points to align this together. So there are other ways you could do this, which is before you're going to do all your applying your applique and doing your hand stitching, you could as well stitch that together with your sewing machine just on one side. You could pick either your left hand side or your right hand side, whichever one works for you, but you have to stitch that with your sewing machine before starting this. But me, I didn't do that, so that's why I'm left with and stitching this together. Now over to the tiny trimming that we're going to be using for the strap or sleeve. I have laid out my applique I'm going to be putting on this, and basically I'm just going to place this at random spots, and the measurement of this trimming is equivalent to the measurement of where you want it to be on your body. So basically, if you're doing this for a client, you have to just take the measurement of the client from one arm to the other. With the help of my glue gun, I was able to put this applique on the trimming. So once we finish applying this trimming, I joined this trimming to the sleeve, and after that I proceeded to joining the body of this dress to the flounce. And this it didn't take a long time, but it was so hard to do because the flounce kept on moving all around. It wasn't staying at the place, and it was so heavy to stitch on. So I had someone hold it for me, and that's why it became very easy for me to sew all around. You guys can tell how exhausted I was, but I just had to finish this, and I really love the outcome. I'm checking to see if I have any holes or anything, but everything's stitched on nice, and I'm going to try this on. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. I would love to know you guys' thoughts on this outfit, so please leave a comment down below, and the link to my Instagram handle is going to be in the description box below, so do check that out. See you guys in my next tutorial.